I Vow to Thee My Country is a British patriotic hymn created in 1921 when a poem by Sir Cecil Spring Rice was set to music by Gustav Holst. The origin of the hymn's text is a poem by diplomat Sir Cecil Spring Rice, written in 1908 or 1912. The poem was called Erbs Dee. The poem described how a Christian owes his loyalties to both his homeland and the heavenly kingdom. It's believed that Sir Cecil Spring Rice wrote the poem either in 1908, whilst being posted to the British Embassy in Stockholm, or in 1912, when he was appointed as ambassador to the United States of America, where he actually influenced the administration of Woodrow Wilson to abandon neutrality and join Britain in the war against Germany. After the United States entered the war, he was recalled to Britain. Shortly before his departure from the US in January 1918, he rewrote and renamed Erbs Dee, significantly changing the first verse to concentrate on the themes of love and sacrifice instead of war, creating a more sombre tone in view of the dreadful loss of life suffered in the Great War. According to Sir Cecil's granddaughter, the rewritten verse of 1918 was never intended to appear alongside the first verse of the original poem, but was replacing it. The original first verse is nevertheless sometimes known as the rarely sung middle verse. The text of the original poem was sent by Spring Rice to William Jennings Bryan in a letter shortly before his death in February 1918. The poem circulated privately for a few years until it was set to music by Holst. Gustav Holst set I Vow to Thee My Country to a tune he adapted from his Jupiter to fit the words of the poem. It was performed as a unison song with orchestra in the early 1920s, and in 1926 Gustav Holst harmonised the tune to make it usable as a hymn, which was included in the Hymnal Songs of Praise. In that version, the lyrics were unchanged, but the tune was then called Thaxted, named after the village where Holst lived for many years. The editor of the new 1926 edition of Songs of Praise was Holst's close friend, Ralph Vaughan Williams, which might have been the reason for Holst's cooperation in producing the hymn. Holst's daughter, Imogen, recorded that at the time he was asked to set these words to music, Holst was so overworked and over-weary that he felt relieved to discover they fitted the tune from Jupiter. The final line in the second verse is based on Proverbs 3:17. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. In the context of which the feminine pronoun refers to wisdom. I Vow to Thee My Country is popularly sung at Remembrance Day services. First performed in 1921, it's still associated with Remembrance Day services all over the Commonwealth of Nations. The hymn was also used at the funeral of Sir Winston Churchill in 1965. Diana, Prince of Wales, requested that the hymn be sung at her wedding to Prince Charles in 1981, saying that it had always been a favourite since school days. It was also sung at her funeral in 1997 and her 10th year memorial service in 2007. It was sung at the funeral of Baroness Thatcher on the 17th of April 2013 and has been used in a couple of video games and television adverts.